At 20 minutes to 10 on a Saturday morning, a United States Army bomber flew into the 79th floor of the Empire State Building. It was not shot down. It was not sabotage. The pilot simply could not see. He had asked permission to land. He was told the visibility over New York was zero. He flew on anyway. 14 people died that morning. And by Monday, the building was open for business. That is not because the damage was small. There is an 18-foot hole in the north face of the tallest building in the world, and burning fuel is pouring down the elevator shafts. It is because of how this tower was built 14 years earlier, and because of two accidents of physics that nobody planned. And the most dangerous moment of that morning has not happened yet. It happens after the plane stops moving. Lieutenant Colonel William Smith is an experienced combat pilot. He has flown missions over Europe. What he has never flown over is a city that has disappeared. On the morning of July 28, 1945, fog is sitting on Manhattan down to the rooftops. LaGuardia will not take him. He requests Newark instead, and the controller tells him plainly that he cannot see the ground. Smith descends anyway, looking for something he recognizes. He finds it. People on Fifth Avenue hear the engines before they see anything at all. The bomber comes out of the cloud already inside the city, between the towers, too low and too late. At 9:40 it strikes the north face, between the 78th and 80th floors. The hole is 18 feet by 20. Behind that wall is a Saturday skeleton crew. It is the Office of War Relief Services, part of the National Catholic Welfare Council, people who came in on their day off to organize aid for a continent that has just finished tearing itself apart. Most of the 11 civilians who die that morning are in that room. A bomber does not stop when it hits a building. One engine tears clean through the tower and exits the south side, opposite the impact. It crosses the street still traveling, falls 900 feet, and lands on the roof of the building on the next block, where it sets fire to a penthouse art studio. The second engine goes somewhere far worse. It drops into an elevator shaft. On the way down, it cuts the cables. And it takes the fuel with it. The shafts of the Empire State Building are now chimneys. Burning aviation fuel runs down through the core of the tower, and fire appears on floors the aircraft never touched. There are people above the fire. There is no way to bring them down. The fire department arrives at a problem it has never been given before. The fire is 78 stories up. Their ladders reach 6. So they climb. Hose, tanks and axes, on foot, into a stairwell filling with smoke, while the building's own lifts are burning. 40 minutes later, it is out. It is still, to this day, the highest structural fire New York firefighters have ever brought under control. And the tower itself barely moves. That is not luck. The Empire State Building is a riveted steel frame carrying a stone skin, a cage, not a stack of floors. The bomber weighed a fraction of what that cage was built to hold, and it arrived at a fraction of the speed the engineers had allowed for wind. The building loses a piece of its face. It does not lose its structure. Which leaves the question of the people inside it. If forgotten American history like this deserves to be uncovered, like the video and subscribe. The hardest part of that morning came after the fire was out. Betty Lou Oliver is 20 years old, from Arkansas, and this job is temporary. When the bomber hits, she is at her post in an elevator car on the 80th floor. The blast throws her out of the car and burns her badly. First aid workers reach her, put her into a different elevator, and send her down to the street for treatment. Nobody tells them about the shaft. Somewhere below her, the cables that a falling engine has already cut finally let go. The car drops 75 stories. She is conscious the whole way. She said afterwards that she was pounding and shouting, and that she was going down so fast she simply held on to the sides. More than 1,000 feet later, she is alive. Two things almost certainly saved her, and neither of them was designed to. The shaft was very nearly airtight, so the falling car had to compress the air beneath it, and that slowed it down. And at the bottom of that shaft, the cut cables had been piling up all morning, hundreds of feet of steel rope, coiled loose on the basement floor, waiting underneath her like a spring. Rescuers cut her out of the wreckage. Broken neck. Broken back. Broken pelvis. 4 months in Bellevue, and then a train home to Arkansas. She walked again. She had 3 children and 7 grandchildren, and she lived until 1999. More than 80 years later, no one has survived a longer fall inside an elevator. The record is still hers. On Monday morning, less than 48 hours after a bomber hit it, the Empire State Building opens for business on most of its floors. 9 days after that, a bomb falls on Hiroshima, and nobody in America is thinking about a foggy morning in Midtown. But the families of the 11 people who went to work that Saturday and did not come home are left with something the country had never really faced. They could not sue. Under the doctrine of sovereign immunity, a citizen could not take the United States government to court. The government had made the mistake, and the government decided what, if anything, that was worth. About 8 months later, it offered the families money. Some accepted it. Others refused, and pressed. And there was a bill that had been sitting in Congress for years, going nowhere, the Federal Tort Claims Act. The crash pushed it through. President Truman signed it in August of 1946, and Congress wrote retroactive provisions into the law, specifically so that the people hurt on the 79th floor could finally bring their claims. So the right of an ordinary American to take the federal government into a courtroom and make it answer, that right traces back, in part, to a pilot who could not see the building in front of him. The tower is still standing on Fifth Avenue. So is the law.